you actually met Ashley with an author named Dave Showalter to discuss more about his latest book called The Living River, The Promise of the Mighty Colorado, perfect for our area here. And he talks about how important it is in the river shaping our lives here in the Southwest, and how we can actually do our part to view our relationship with water a little differently.
The Living River, The Promise of the Mighty Colorado is a new book by conservation photographer and author Dave Showalter that explores the endangered Colorado River from source to sea and illustrates how we can create a resilient watershed by changing our relationship with water. Here to tell us more is the author himself. Welcome, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm so intrigued by this book. Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind it?
Sure, it's kind of funny. So 7 years ago, I was at a Audubon meeting in Washington, D.C. and got invited to a breakout session about Western rivers, and that really piqued my interest. It was a great campaign, and I thought I could contribute something. But then I was triggered by someone said the river is dying, and that wasn't my experience at all. And my wife Marla and I had been roaming the watershed for decades, and my experience is where there's water, there's life, and I felt compelled to tell a story that is a hopeful story and changes the narrative about the Colorado River.
So true, and the photos in this book too are just spectacular. Can you tell us about your approach when it came to photographing the river?
So as a conservation photographer, my approach is very intentional. And it took me a couple of years to see most of the watershed, and I identified places. I wanted to show what a watershed is and what our place in a watershed is. And there's 40 million of us, and we are a community within this watershed. And so I sought out places where I could tell good stories through people who are doing amazing work, and a lot of that is in the tributary spaces and throughout the 1,450-mile length of the Colorado and her tributaries.
Now, it's taken a few years to put this all together, so what was the experience like? What was the day-to-day?
So parts of 5 years were when I made most of the images, and a lot of that was pretty scrappy, and I call myself a fancy dirtbag at times. So I'm out in the field, I'm far from the nearest town, I'm working with folks, and oftentimes sleeping in my truck to be on location and be where I need to be to make the pictures.
Wow. Well, you definitely have to sacrifice to kind of get what you need, but you've done a great job at collecting it. Kind of talking about some of the logistics and the science behind the river, though, this year there's some big snowpacks that are beginning to melt in the Rockies. How much of that is going to help through this mega drought? And can you talk a little bit about what the current status of the river is?
Sure. So yes, indeed, we had a good snowpack this year, about 150%. It's important to know where our water comes from, which is the top of the Rocky Mountains. Our snow that accumulates over winter is a frozen reservoir, if you will. Right now, that's all melting, and it's great. It gives us a little bit of a buffer as we figure things out with the allocations. The river is over-allocated or over-promised. And I think the perspective we need to have about this year's snowpack is that we're in a 23-year mega drought, and we're in the driest period in 1,200 years. And there's a big gap between how much water we have, or the river we have, and how much is promised. And that's the part that's getting addressed.
And you kind of mentioned, changing our relationship with water.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that means? I mean, there's certain things that we all know, but maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so, little things like don't call the river a resource, it's a life force. And so where does our water come from? If we learn where our water comes from, either go there physically or virtually and go to that space, if we go to the river and sit with her and be present and present with all of that life. I just came off of the San Pedro River just a couple of hours or an hour from here. And it is spectacular right now with bird life and all life. And just know that wherever water flows, there's life. That helps us to change how we speak about the river. Change our relationship with our indigenous friends. We're not whole as a watershed community until everybody has access to water. And there's other stuff we can do. And we can engage with conservation groups that are doing great work. And certainly there's an ample resource page on our book. We can we can comment right now. To the Bureau of Land Management has an open comment period as part of the supplemental environmental impact statement process for the river. And if we go to livingrivercolorado.org, which is our website for the book, there's an easy link to what you can do and to take action. So there's a lot of stuff we can do, but mostly go to the river, soak it all in, and speak for her.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Well, and you've got an event that's coming up this weekend. Is that right? Could you tell our viewers a little bit about it, just if they want to learn more, see more of your work in action?
So we have an event at the Center for Creative Photography at the U of A, and the event is, I'll give a presentation. I've been traveling around Arizona these last couple of weeks giving presentations, so I'll do that at that event and sign books and answer questions and take people to the river. That's what I want to do.
Well, that's what's so beautiful too, because it's true that when something is out of sight, it's out of mind. But if we can get people down to the river to see it, to experience it, and if they can't physically go there, then they can go there in your book, then that's one step closer. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dave. We really appreciate your time. And if you want to learn more, you can go to livingrivercolorado.org. Some really interesting information. Yeah. And the visuals just gorgeous.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh, those pictures he took are spectacular. Yeah.